Good morning. Actually started working on a project here with the MX6000, and then I thought, man, I should stop and probably record some of this. So basically what's happened is I was going to replace a couple LED lights in the front, work lights to the front of the tractor, and then I realized, man, I need to get the roof out of the way, the cab roof, and I thought, well, if I'm going to have to do that to get a bolt out, I should go ahead and do the other wiring I want to do and run the camera wiring and do this and do that. So I just stopped and said, yeah, we're going to take the roof off. And I realized I had some questions about doing that, and so I might as well go ahead and stop and document that. A little bit about wiring, a little bit about roof removal, work lights to front, several cool things. So this is going to be segmented, so look in the description below for some benchmarks time frame wise of where I'm working on a certain part of it. So if that's all you want to know, you could get down to that and say, look, yeah, I just want to know about those brackets in the front for the work lights of the MX6000, or hey, what's up above this panel here? So you can kind of look. I've already actually got bolts and clips and everything out of this. It's actually already sagging down a little bit, and I've also got some stuff undone here to the side. So I'm going to stop, try to go component by component and see if it'll be a good resource from you, like I've found from everybody else that's done some effort on stuff like this. So hope you find something you can use. All right, so here we are. I've already got this top off, but I'm going to go back and show you the bolts, screws, and clips and everything that holds this thing on. I'll give you a tour on the top of what you don't see yet, or what you won't see when you're just looking at it. But it's already off. It is super light. This is not a heavy-duty roof, but it does exactly what it's supposed to do. So there's actually a couple layers in this. There is plastic. It moves in underneath. I mean, I can pick this whole roof up with one hand, and underneath you'll start seeing you've got a gasket that helps seal all the way around underneath this thing. And then you can see, particularly, these are the little inserts where the bolts are going to connect to all the way around there. And so these are for bolts. The other part will be for clips that's just holding the headliner in. So let's go take a tour at the top of the tractor with this thing off, and then we'll go underneath and kind of show you the size, wrenches, sockets, everything that you'll need to get this rooftop off. So kind of first, when you're actually going to start taking the roof off the MX6000, there's two things you'll see from the inside of the cab that you may or may not need to remove. But for the actual orange plastic roof, this bolt, which is a 14 millimeter, will have to come out. And those are covered by a little gray button cap that you'll have to remove first, maybe with a little pair of needle nose pliers. Just pull them off, set your little box to the side, or you've got the cup holder. You put some of that in. It's some kind of a good collection over here for the bolts. You're probably going to drop something in here. I've actually got one of the button caps down there, and I'll get it at some point. But so here's the two things: 14 millimeter long bolt. So that is what's reaching all the way up through the cab, through the two pieces of metal, and going up and anchoring into the roof part that's pulling that down together. So this bolt does hold some of the headliner up, but it also holds the roof down and sandwiches it together on the whole cab top. Now this other piece here, just a little plastic clip, I think when those are ready to install, it's sitting out, and when you stick it through, this one is all it's going to do is just hold the roof liner up to the cab roof. That's the only purpose that these serve. So once you put it back up in the hole, you just press in and it expands out, and that's going to hold the roof liner in. So to release these, what I do is just push in on that button like a Phillips screwdriver, a small punch, or something like that, and it's going to release. See how it pushes in, a little indentation, and then you can pull these back out. So that's the only two things that's holding that in. Now, if you just wanted to get to the top of the roof, the only thing you'd really need to do, I believe, is take out these 14 millimeter bolts. Top comes off, the canopy stays in place up here, or not the canopy, but the roof liner. All right, so we're going to start with a tour here from a top view of the MX6000 with the orange roof cap off of the cab. So I'm going to start kind of front center. Obviously, you can see that there are wiring harnesses, other items up here that you would not want to just go drilling through or think that there's nothing up there. You'd want to know where this is at. So it's easy to take the top off, actually. Way easier than I thought it was going to be. So I can plan some things out. you'll see that there's already a radio installed. In fact, I'm going to do a couple things to make it more secure. I installed that from inside the cab, and it worked just fine, but I'm going to show you another section just on the radio that I bought off of Amazon. But let's look here. So what's holding this thing on? You look over to the side here, and I've got a bolt hole that's going through here. It's just sliding through that part up to the roof into one of those inserts to get it attached. And it's coming up from the inside of a second hole. So it's a long bolt that goes up through there and attaches to the roof. Most of this area around the front of the cab, try to get where my fingers in here, around the front of the cab is all the long silver bolts that you'll get to from the inside. And then at the back, there are some black bolts that go up in and screw just from the access from outside the cab at the back. Those are, you can see easily from the outside. So to look around this, what really started this was I was going to be changing a light bracket. So there is a welded insert on the other piece that goes under here. I could not extract the bolt without getting the cab off, or the topper off. So that was like, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Well, then I realized this is time to go ahead and run my wires. I have already tucked some of the video camera wires up in the side with a little upholstery tool. But all that needs to get run properly. Since the top is off, I'm going to go ahead and install some of the amber lights up on top. That way I can run it. But here you got the top view of of your temperature control, a few of the work switches. You've got grounds, everything that's kind of normal that you would see. And you can see the right here, this is the bolt that I could not pull up out without the roof on there properly. And I'm actually going to change this bracket anyway. But looking back through, you'll have to pardon this unsteadiness. I'm actually on top of the loader, kind of standing right now, so I'm trying to stay one place. But back here at the back, very importantly, we've got the heater air conditioner unit. So if you'll notice, this is actually really a big heater core in a way that's doing the exchange. So you have the intake and output that's coming from the antifreeze or the radiator from the engine back up to here. That's coming up from the side, kind of what we would call a B post in vehicles, up through there back to this, and it looks like it's either return or intake, either way. That's coming up through the other side B post, or the second post back in your cab. So I would not drill in those locations inside your post or some other locations until you absolutely confirm what's back there. But you do have sound dampening. You can see, you can get to all this stuff so much easier when you're accessing up here. All right, continuing on with taking the roof off. Again, it's already off, but this is just the back portion. So you have these holes you can see around the perimeter up there that has these 10mm bolts. The easiest thing I found to do was just on my little drill gun, 10mm, and those come out very easily. I'll probably warn this a couple of times, but anytime you're working with a wrench or a drill around glass, that, you know, you will keep that under control really well. Anticipate it torquing your hand a little bit and maybe swinging the battery around or wrench letting go. So be very careful while working around the glass. This glass has the defogger, just like the back of your vehicle in it. This would be expensive to replace. I've got the insurance on it, but you know, I really don't want to have to use that if I don't have to. That's just more time. So yeah, just a 10mm bolt here. So here's a little bit about installing the radio. I got this one off of Amazon, 90 bucks, something like that. Not bad at all. It actually, the Bluetooth worked. It connected to my phone. I could make calls with voice prompt from it. It's got an auxiliary input for sound or USB. It's pretty kind of jam-packed up radio for the cost of it, and it's, you know, good enough quality for in a tractor. It seems like it's just stereo. You don't have 4 speakers in here. There's just 2. But installation was easy. It came with the aluminum bracket that goes into the housing. You just pop out the clip that's here, the faceplate that's covering it, slip your insert in, that's the metal piece, bend as much as you can on the back with the tabs, and it holds that in. Reach your harness through, connect the adapter from the Kubota clip harness to the back of the radio, and then put your radio in, and it snapped right into place. Keep the little retainer keys that go in the side. you'll have to stick those in there to remove that back. In fact, even to separate it from the mounting bracket when you get it out of the box, you're going to have to stick the key in, and it releases the side, and you can separate the two so you can install it, but you'll also need that to take the radio back out. But you'll see the view from the top of how to bend those tabs some more, but the only way you can really bend them is from the top with the cab top off. Okay, another part about the radio installation, here you can see it with the cab off, cab roof off, where you can see putting this in from the inside. You can't get to these little tabs. This is a short stack radio. It doesn't take up much space at all versus a normal size, what I'm used to in a radio. So the factory harness is already here. That's what came in the cab already without the radio installed. Then I've got this adapter that plugs into the radio, and it actually came with this in the box from the kit from Amazon. So then it plugged right in, and honestly it was just plug and play. But the thing I need to do while I've got this off, I couldn't really get these tabs bent all the way, and since I didn't plan well, I've just got this wrench up here. So all I'm going to do is stop for a second and just kind of bend these back in place and secure this. It's a little bit looser. I'll go ahead and do that while I'm up here. So one of the next things I'm going to do here is, you can see this little strobe light. This was quickly attached onto the tractor before driving up the road for the other job that you saw in the video. And actually bought it off of Amazon, just something cheap just to kind of put on there for temporary until I decided what I'm doing. But I put it on there, and when I say put it on there, actually it is on the triple stack remote with nothing but wire ties for right now, with a cord ran up under the glass to a triple 12 volt plug outlet that I can just plug into the cigarette lighter plug. But I gotta tell you, once I put it on there and actually look down the road at it when the other person's driving, I was pretty impressed with the thing. It was like 28 bucks. And that placement actually gave some view from the side and good from the back. So what I'm going to do right now is, I've actually bought a couple more of those exact ones. We're going to get ready to try to mount them on the roof. I went ahead and opted for this over a mini bar. Just cost. I mean, 28 bucks a piece. The warning is sufficient. Even in daytime, I'm seeing it good. My biggest concern for the tractor is the rear. This view down here where someone's coming around the curve, where they see me from the back when I'm traveling on the road, that's the biggest safety concern right now. So I'm going to go show you some thoughts and rigging on this for the top. So here's our other two strobes that I'm going to work on mounting on top of this roof. Now, here's some questions you may have already asked yourself. Why would I want to put them on the roof? What about underneath? What about some other places? Well, I did think about all those things. Any of you other folks that are rigging things, you probably go through 10 ideas before you find one, or way more than that before you say, like, hey, that's what I'm doing. But in this case, I elected the roof because it's 360 warning from a distance. You can see front and rear. They work for all sides really from the top view, but I do need lower, like that one I just showed you. But then it comes down to the problem, like if I start to mount them underneath or on corners or some of the mounting tabs that are already on the tractor out there, it starts to glare into the cab or may actually affect my vision. I don't want my eyes to be affected by the lighting that I add on here. That's part of a safety part for our vision. So next part, I'm going to describe the idea here. So I started this with the thinking that I don't want to drill many holes in the top here. This is the roof, and anytime you put a hole in it, you're penetrating the part, and you could have a potential for a leak down the road. So whatever you do, it's going to have to be sealed really well, silicone, whatever. But I thought to minimize, I know I'm going to have to make a hole for the wiring that's going to go back down in the cab to control these. So one of the thoughts was, I got some extra scrap aluminum that's actually pretty thick. So the idea is, with the 3 screw holes, they could mount to the aluminum, and then the aluminum piece, or whatever piece of plastic that I found, I've got some heavy duty industrial Velcro that is super sticky. I mean, it really is tough. So I wouldn't worry about anything coming off with this kind of Velcro. And of course, that little retentive part of us, I wanted to draw circles, and I was going to cut those out with a jigsaw. and put perfect circles, mount this to the aluminum, and then aluminum to the cab with the Velcro, and then one hole to seal for both wires. But of course, that's open thinking. Nobody's really going to look up there and care that you made a perfect circle. So I have another scrap piece of aluminum. All I'm going to do is end up cutting this piece in half. They fit on there perfectly. I can still screw them to it with some stainless steel screws that aren't going too far. Grind off the bottoms, Velcro this on, and we should be done a lot quicker, and nobody's going to care about the circle or exactness like that, but this should last for a while. Well, I've got the lights on the two aluminum plates. So I actually went ahead and cut in half, went ahead and piloted some holes marked just to make these metal screws a little bit easier to drill themselves the rest of the way through. But there's not a ton of metal there, but quite a bit for a bite in aluminum for the weight and what this product is with 3 screws. So these screws did stick out the bottom, but you can see where they've been ground on the grinder. So it's almost more like it's riveted to the plate here. So the only thing I've got to do next is I'm going to clean up the bottom. Probably find some alcohol wipes and some things out here. Clean the bottoms real good. And the area on the cab to prepare for sticking them down with the industrial Velcro here. Well, the 2 little amber lights are on. Everything mounted. Ground on the bottom, got both the male and female Velcro product stuff on the bottom, and it's actually solid. It's solid Velcro under the entire plate, so I can pick up this whole roof, and we still haven't put any kind of a hole through the top. That's a good sign. So all that's going to happen next, you can see that the length comes together where I'm going to be able to join these underneath the cab pretty easily and a little bit to either side that I want. But I'm going to have to drill a hole right about there, and then at least that's a small hole that I'm putting this through that I can really silicone the heck out of, and shouldn't have any potential for any leaks into the cab. That would be bad. But one thing to note, if you've messed with these kind of lights with LEDs and pattern changing, in these, the yellow is the wire that changes pattern. So I touched that to the red wire, which that's on the other light, but I just touched that to a red wire, another power again momentarily, and that will change a pattern from a double strobe, triple strobe, rotating, or whatever patterns a device has. But I'm still debating whether I'm going to run, just tie these together. I can just leave these capped off because I will have to set the pattern on this to strobe whatever pattern I want now, and then it doesn't matter. It's going to retain that memory in it, and that's what it's going to keep doing forever. Or I could change and run a yellow wire down along with the wiring I'm doing underneath and be able to change that pattern from the cab, but I'm not really too worried about that. I'll make a decision on it later. But next thing is getting a hole drilled and put through the roof. All right, we're back, and couldn't really video this by myself, but all the wires are through. I haven't siliconed the holes yet since we're looking underneath that strobe light. I'm going to do that at the very end. In fact, I opened up a tube of silicone to seal that, and it was hard as a rock and wouldn't move. So I got to get some new stuff. But here's another look, at least underneath. You've got some, I'd say, venting, just like a door where your car will be able to shut and get some heat out of that part. Seal all the way around it. Nice gasket. And you can see parts where you have single layer plastic, and then you have dual layer with some crimping where it's joined to the other layer for strength. Actually, I mean, you can hold it. It's not flimsy, but I think it's a really good design for the purpose it serves. Even these dimples, those are joining the 2 layers together in strength, but it just needs to keep water out and seal at the top, and it doesn't add hardly any weight at all. So I think this is actually a pretty good design. We'll see how the duration goes, but here's the plan for wiring. What I'm going to do is join these 2 reds together, 2 grounds together. We have some pigtails that, male, female, that will be long enough that when we start to set this back on to the tractor, or we take it off again to sometime in the future for some kind of maintenance, I've got enough leeway with those that a person can unclip them and separate that from the cab and then take the roof off there. But I did decide I'm going to go ahead and run the yellow wires so that I can do the selector and change patterns from down in there. Just go ahead and do it while I've got all this off. And I'm actually going to use a second pigtail for that. So this one, the black and red wire, and I'll put some sticky labels around them as we get farther down in the harness. But they're going to be separated. So in the second pigtail, the black is going to go to one of these yellows here, and then the red's going to go to the other yellow, so I can actually have them separated and change each one if I want to. I thought about tying these together, and then maybe it should change both patterns at the same time to the next one, but I may want to alternate them or do something different, or perhaps one of them doesn't change and the other does, so I'm just going to keep them separate. So I'm not going to film the whole time putting the connectors on, but we do have some good connectors. And once these are crimped on, we'll heat them. They'll seal up and have a really good connection. So I'm just going to get to work on that, and I'll show you the end run here. All right, next little step, everything has been wired together here for the plugs. That's going to be underneath the cab. I've got the hot and ground together in one plug, and we've got the yellows on another plug. Now, I had forgot while I had this, since this is actually upside down, this is actually the right side of the tractor. So I thought I was real smart, and I put right for red, but that's actually going over to what will be the left side. So I'll just have to remember that. Won't really matter because I'm not even sure what type of switch I'm going to use to make the patterns change side to side for each one, but I'll just be touching them to something for now. Keep a memory. I'll figure out that part later, but we are wired for this. I'm going to bundle these together a little bit tighter. Probably put a couple of pieces in here to plan exactly where this needs to stay stationary to keep it away from the HVAC. I mean, all the heat and air conditioning unit. It's all clear. It looks like good space up there, but there is a channel that I want this wiring to stay in. So on to the next part. All right, now it's time to make the harness, or the wire that's going to be going from the B post on the right side. That's the second post back in the cab, right to your right if you're sitting there. That's going to be going straight up through that post, and then up around the back of the cab to our connections here. So one of the things I'm going to do is there won't be a black wire in this loom because it's going to be grounded at the top of the cab. I found a good ground up there, and that's instead of running one more wire. So actually what's going to be in this loom is the hot wire and the two yellows for changing pattern on the beacons. So what I actually have here is a piece from a toilet bowl sink connection, or a toilet bowl like the to the back of the toilet. The thing's been cut off. I just keep these little pieces of material for well, I guess doing stuff like this, but what I've got is a little bit of the end of the beginning of these three wires. They're already cut to length. I've got them taped up inside of that. I've got that started inside of the wire harness, or this is going to be a protecting. You don't want it just running bare down there. Eventually it's going to vibrate and wear through, but what I'm going to do is pull this through, kind of milk it through with this, and I'll try to re-record here in just a second and show you some of that happening. All right, so this is how I use this this piece to get it through there, to guide it through. It's just kind of like bunching up a little bit of material on the running end, and it'll snake back over the other part of it. So I'll reach back to the end of the plastic piece, slide it all, you see it building up. It'll just about start going right over the wire almost instantly. So bunch it up again, let it go. Have to keep running it out, but it's already covered that much of wire in just that short period of time. All right, so I'm back up on top of the tractor, obviously, but Here's the harness we just built. These are the connectors that are going to stay on top for the amber strobes, but I've already got this wire tied off. The lead that's going to be coming over to a ground right down there beside of the HVAC unit. I'm calling it an HVAC unit, but the heat and air conditioning. But the good thing is strobes are going to be here, wiring harness coming around, and I hope that this will be able to see this. But this is the B post right behind the door here, but you can probably see some light right there. That is that channel that you can see from the inside. So we've actually got an easy straight run with the other wiring looms and stuff that are in here. We'll secure that to them to reduce vibration, but I'm going to start feeding this down through there, and this part's getting pretty close to done. I guess while I'm up here, we'll just look at a couple more things. You can see the scroll cage fan. It's moving the air in there. All the channeling, the connections here that are going to your air ports, the heat and air conditioning down in the cab. You can see the fresh air return solenoid and control that's going to close this damper up. So if you do things inside, it's just another visual to say, hey, don't drill up through here again. I've already said that once, but yeah, just several places you don't want to do that. But I'm going to start feeding this harness. Put it on my Captain Obvious cape again. We're inside the cab. It's actually getting a little bit later, it's starting to get a little bit darker, and my hands are starting to get cold, but the harness has made its way inside. So this is where we brought it down through. You can see right back up through there. I can't really see the light from this angle, but this is the braided wire here. It's covering, protecting everything. Again, inside of here even, you're going to have vibration from the tractor running, scraping, doing all your work. So this is all going to be secured together. But here's something cool I kind of noticed when I come down. You've already got these screw holes here. I think that gives me an idea for something else I'm going to do on a little holder here for a radio or something. But this could be a little bit of an air intake. Or I would also guess, just like your vehicle, when you close the door, you need some air output, kind of a vent to be able to let the doors close. That might be part of that air channel through here. But look at this feature right here. This other harness was run through here. They did a great job putting it in at Kubota of Asheville. And this one I'm adding myself, but this was already in here with a nice smooth channel to put that in. So I'll wire tie against there, kind of hold that in place. But then it'll be coming out through the switch location here. You can probably see me in a reflection, but we're in front of the windshield now while I'm waiting for something else to set up on the roof, on the cab top. I'm gonna go on to fixing out some stuff for the wiring bracket up here, the light bracket up here. So this is the factory bracket that's welded to the cab. You'll see your factory lights mounted to this, and the recessed in there are pretty good. This is the bracket that come off. So you can see there's a nut welded on there, so you don't have to put a wrench in there. Again, we're working real close to glass here, so I want to be super careful not to hit a wrench or drop something against that. That would be bad. But this was in here like this before. That top nut is a 14 millimeter, and the side brackets that hold the light on are 10 millimeter. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. I'll save this piece for another time, or if somebody wants it in the tractor, if I ever sell it, or some other use for it. But that's going to go away. I'm going to cut a piece of angle iron that's going to be basically the same, but it's going to come out a little bit farther and back down. So just a narrow piece of angle iron. This piece of the bracket of the new light is going to be mounted on that. And this is the lights that I've already used on the back of the salt spreader. Good LEDs. And they also have some side lighting. That's what I really like about this. So this should broadcast a little bit more to the side and the front along with the work lights. But with the factory tab and the way the roof comes out over this, if I just tried to mount straight to this, these are going to be too close to the plastic that's in the roof cab, or the cab roof. So it's going to be out just a little bit farther, then I'll find the angle. And then what we're going to have to do is I'm going to leave the plug here alone, just leave that the way it is, take the one off the factory light and put it on the end of this so that it just plugs in. No big change there. So I'll get started on a few other things, but that's what's coming up with the lights in the front. All right, I didn't record a lot of the work I was doing, but just a quick explanation. Use some angle iron, put it on the cutoff wheel, and cut me these two pieces here. Brushed it down, ground it a little bit, really kind of polished it up a little bit. Then came over here, drilled these holes for each one of the ones, a different size for each one. One for the light bracket or the light mount itself, and this is for the mount back to the tractor. For where the factory mount was, at this 14 millimeter bolt from the top will go back in. This is a not only bushing in there that's going to be a lock nut, but I've tack welded onto this bracket so it won't turn. So again, just like the factory one, I'm not going to have to put a wrench on the bottom of it. It should be okay. But it was a little bit sloppy, nothing beautiful. I had to use my 70-18 rod and stick to tack weld those in place. I just wasn't going to take the time to set back up for my MIG setup right now. But it did the job, melted it together. They should work just fine. So moving on to the next step. Well, here we are. I can't even remember where I was at with the video before. I've had a lot of other work to do and had to kind of stop, which actually decided to make a stopping point where there's another switch box that I'm going to want to get and a few other things, but I'm just going to be ready to put the other parts of this video together and kind of move on for a little bit, and I'll come back for the last part sometime when I actually have time. But let me go ahead and show you around a couple of the things that have happened, I think, from the beginning, and I may repeat something, so I apologize for that. But got her running for a little bit here. Everything is back in the cab, all the bolts. You know, just one of the notes, and I can't remember if I said it before, that if you want to really access things up in here, anything above here, is just better to take the roof off. Don't attempt to take the headliner down because there's just too much stuff connected to it. You'll never really get it down. So you really just need to look for the bolts that are the long ones that are going up through and holding the roof down. And then you can get to everything above this that you need, tuck wires and do some things. But the radio's in, everything's working great with it. It's synced up with the phone. Sounds pretty good in the cab, not bad at all. The camera's back in, and when I went to go use it the other day on a job, I realized I have the power ran to it, but some reason I forgot to keep running the third camera that'll plug into the side of it. That's for the rear view for the box scraper. So it's somewhere up in here. So I'll actually probably loosen the roof up. It won't take long, and find that, plug it in, and tuck everything behind it. But it's all clean. Everything is tucked in, so there's nothing sticking out, nothing's pressurized or anything or clamping on a cable. And then as we come over, this is what we call the B post, A post, B post, C post, really kind of. There's one back here for the window, but you can see this is unfinished. I've got the wire loom protecting the wire coming through here. This is the front work light switch turn on, which I'll show you those here in just a moment, a little bit closer with those actually done and on. This should be for a rear work light, but what I'm going to use is this access hole. I'm going to take these two holes here that actually have female threads, studs in here, that I could mount something on this intake. This is part of the air system and movement in here, but something to build out a platform to put the small GMRS radio and CB and a couple little things and a charger here on the side for our fire department radio that'll be kind of stacked on this with some airflow behind it. So the wires will come out of this for all the other auxiliary stuff and antenna or whatever I'm going to do. So right now, boy, it's just rigged. I actually just have it. The yellow wires, again, if you remember from earlier, those are just for changing the pattern. I have to hook those to power, touch it, and it'll change the pattern on the lights. So I just have them ran together here, flashy, and then it's just running up into this little triple switch box, which is pretty cool because it's a good temporary solution. You've got another USB charging capability here if you need, but this switch right here, you'll see the light off, light on, and that actually works for all of them. So you actually have a switch box here for now that is the temporary solution for what's going to be here, but I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to use here. The cool thing is the entire system, you can see voltage and all that. Probably looks weird with the camera and scan lines, but you can turn off that whole box back here, and it's not powered. I leave it on. So now I'm going to hop out. We'll go to the back, just see the lights working. I'll show you the rear lights, and then we'll look at the front work lights and see what they look like to you. All right, here we are to the back, obviously. Hiding behind the snow plow, since it's off right now, and the snow plow for the tractor. But you can see the two top lights. You can see the rear light. We'll walk up a little bit closer, take a peek at those. So you can see this one is on the triple stack remote, and it's nothing but wire tied on there, just kind of wrapped around, wire tied, but man, it actually just kind of stayed in place. Futuristically, future plan, I'd like to build some kind of a bracket back here to mount a fourth one back here, but there's nothing that really lines up for holes, so I'm going to have to custom make something. But it appears everything worked out really great. Let me lower the box scraper down real quick. We're going to lower that down so I can actually get to the stand up on here and look at the top lights a little bit closer with them installed. One more climb here. All right, so here they are. This is the really gooped up silicone around one hole. That's all we've got. And again, these holes you see, that's from some old holes, but this is nothing but Velcroed on a good thick aluminum plate, and the light is just screwed into that, and then the base is ground up off underneath, so it's smooth underneath the aluminum plate. But I think it worked out pretty darn good. Really happy with them. I don't know if I mentioned this before when I was working on the roof, but I really wish while I had it on the work table in the shop, I went ahead and put some a wax coating or something on this while it was off and easier to get to. But I think that since it is plastic and it's in the sun a lot, that's something I'm going to try to do maintenance wise every once in a while. So now I'm going to turn this off so I can get to the front lights and not keep it running so I don't kill myself jumping back off of here. So be back in a second. All right, we're daytime, but man, you got to take a look at these. I mean, even from, I'm directly at 90 degrees. The mirror is a little bit in the way right there, but right there, I've actually got side cast light that really will illuminate the left side of the tractor and this entire area around the front of the tractor really, really well. I think these are about 39 bucks. I'll try to remember to put a link to everything that I've used somewhere down in the description. Most of it's on Amazon and actually pretty cheap. But these lights were not, they're way more quality than I was expecting them to be. So very, very happy with that. I think we can get in a little bit closer. I'm not sure how well you can see the brackets, but everything went back in nicely. Got everything adjusted, and I think I'm pretty happy with it. The only other lighting besides that fourth flashing light on the rear of the tractor, which I'm more worried about vehicles approaching from the rear when I'm on the highway, but I think I'm going to get a couple hideaway strobes, the LEDs, that will mount inside of the headlight assembly on the sidewall that will actually flash outward and project a little bit to the front. I think that's about it, and I think we'll be okay. So that's it. I hope I've given you an idea, at least the way everything looks underneath the cab, or the roof of the cab, to the channel in that B-post. What's there is a great place to run things, and a couple other ideas. So have fun with your tractor. Have a good day.